but Mendes is the best fullback in world football.
Lamine Yamal was unstoppable during the entire season until he met Nuno Mendes in the Nations League final. On the brightest of nights, Mendes didn't just shut down Spain's wonderkid, but also walked away with a goal, an assist, and a Man of the Match award. It was pure domination, which left the world with only one question: where did this version of Mendes come from? But behind the highlight reels lies a moment that changed everything. Stick around, because that moment is what made him deadly. In the shadowy outskirts of Lisbon, where narrow alleyways double as training grounds and streetlight illuminates concrete pitches, Nuno Mendes was moulded in football's rawest form. He was raised in a working-class neighbourhood, and his earliest lessons, they didn't come from elite academies, they came from adversity, which he had to overcome while playing against fate and boys much older than him, who saw no reason to go easy on him. At just 10 years old, Mendes was already displaying an uncanny awareness of space, drifting between defenders and tackling movements like a midfielder. It was his spatial intelligence that caught the eye of Sporting Lisbon's scouts. However, even after joining their academy, he was rarely the headline act. In modern football, where his mates were getting praise for flashy footwork, Mendes was often categorized as too conservative, a player who plays it safe, who's good at defensive work but lacks tactical awareness and decision-making, which are common problems of young players playing in the Portuguese Primeira Liga. This criticism caught everyone's eye when he made his first team debut at 17. Pundits labelled him too raw, who has to mature and adapt to play tempo-dictating football. He had good height and physical ability, but coaches questioned his reading of the game, which, in the first place, shook the scouts of Sporting Lisbon. Then came the transfer to PSG, a leap which was not anticipated by many. Mauricio Pochettino had just started as PSG manager, and he had steals of the decade in that transfer window. Nuno Mendes came very humbly when Paris was celebrating the arrival of megastars like Messi, Donnarumma, and Achraf Hakimi. Under the heaven-high expectations and Galacticos culture of Paris, he silently started to evolve. 2 years went fast, and then came Luis Enrique as PSG's boss. Like many other players who had a complete transformation under Lucho, Mendes also began to absorb positional play at an elite level. With the work rate that he provides on the football pitch, he became indispensable. His performances during PSG's treble run silenced critics about his decision-making skills. His timing on tackles, ability to transition from defense to offense in one touch, and his refusal to go under pressure from big names made him essential to the team. The rise from street prodigy to irreplaceable asset was not a fairy tale, it was a campaign of relentless adaptation. From here on, his defensive evolution will not be a side note, it will become his signature. By the numbers, Nuno leads Ligue 1 fullbacks with 29 successful tackles and 18 interceptions. He might not be at the top of the charts as due to injuries early in the season, he's only played 24 games and 1,676 minutes in Ligue 1 this season. In those played games, he averages 3.2 tackles and 2.1 interceptions per 90 minutes. Now, to understand how great those stats are, you need to count two factors. Firstly, he's a left-back, and in the season of Luis Enrique, his workload is double, as he has to consistently go up the pitch to overload flanks. Secondly, centre-backs are more responsible for making tackles and interceptions in defence. So, this tells us how he's been a silent workhorse for PSG with double duties, and how important a part he's been to Luis Enrique's treble-winning team. In Champions League matches against Liverpool and Arsenal, the way he neutralized the threat of Mohamed Salah and Bukayo Saka was exemplary. Nuno Mendes is the reason Mo Salah is not a leading name in the Ballon d'Or conversation this year, as he didn't allow him to express at all in both legs against Liverpool.
Pops off him. Nuno Mendes getting there ahead of Salah.
This game is littered. Fascinating.
He baited Salah into tighter spaces, forced him inside into congested zones, and then delivered a now iconic tackle with a low shoulder, body balanced and clean through the ball. Salah spent the rest of the game drifting wider, frustrated and toothless. Analysts talk often about verticality and defensive lines, but Nuno's strength is in the horizontal layer. The way he stretches out space and closes it just as fast, he's a master at delaying attackers, never diving too early, yet always close enough to block a shot or disrupt rhythm. His tackle success rate in the Champions League alone is 92%, with 37 successful tackles in 16 matches. With these defensive stats, Mendes showed the world that this shy does not show a hint of timidity on the field when attacking forward. Now, time to take a transition of his heroics in the opposition's half. He's not a traditional fullback who joins the attack, he's an offensive initiator. In the Champions League alone, he scored 4 goals and 2 assists. Against Aston Villa, which PSG won with a crucial goal line clearance and 1 goal margin in 2 legs, Nuno Mendes scored in both legs and broke the deadlock of Aston Villa's defense many times. In all season, his stats read as 6 goals and 11 assists as a fullback, with a clutch performance of a goal and an assist in the final of the Nations League. These numbers are enough to match many wingers in Europe, and we still have to talk about how he initiates attack deep from the build-up, and how his key passes are very important for the PSG's midfield, which manipulates spaces with positional play. He often starts deep and feints an overlap, then cuts inside to become a third midfielder. This underlap drag opens up the flank for his wingers, while giving the midfield an extra outlet. It's a tactical evolution that's become more prominent during the season, and it's turned Mendes into an inside playmaker whenever needed. His crossing accuracy is 29.6% in League One this season. Imagine you have a fullback in your team who has almost a 30% success ratio while putting a cross in. To understand just how elite that is, you need to know that the best wingers in Europe usually have a cross success ratio between 30 to 40%. So, having a fullback like Nuno Mendes and then a winger like Zekiel is like playing with an ideal combination in FIFA for Luis Enrique. Perhaps the most underappreciated stat is his 88% pass completion rate. In high-pressure matches where opponents press relentlessly, Mendes rarely gives the ball away. That's not safe passing, that's surgical distribution, often threaded into the half spaces with pace. So, while the headlines focus on his tackles or his pace, the real revelation is this: Nuno Mendes is becoming PSG's second playmaker, the one who just happens to be defending world-class forwards a few seconds later. Now, let's explore how this versatility translated into silverware and the moment he wrote the Nations League script. In a season where PSG's dominance returned in full force, we can say Nuno Mendes was an integral pillar of this success behind their treble. The marketing campaign often overlooked fullbacks, and the spotlight is mostly on goal scorers, but those who understand football know just how important the role Nuno Mendes and Achraf Hakimi have played for Luis Enrique. Nuno Mendes' influence was felt every minute he played. Then came the Nations League final. While most of the media's focus was on Lamine Yamal, the teenage prodigy of Spain, Mendes had prepared quietly but meticulously for him. Footage later revealed that he studied Yamal's dribbling angles and preferred release zones. He was not reacting to Yamal's runs. It looked like he already knew what was going to happen and predicted every move accurately. After all this remarkable show against Lamine Yamal, you'd think Nuno had done his job brilliantly, but then you'll see the scoring charts and think, did he play as a forward? He scored an important goal and provided a brilliant assist to Cristiano Ronaldo. Not only in the final, but the 6 assists he provided across the Nations League marked the highest tally by any defender in the history of the Nations League. He was the chief architect of Portugal's success and winning the tournament for his childhood idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. Luis Enrique once described Nuno Mendes as the calm inside the storm, a player whose emotional equilibrium never wavers, regardless of stakes. Don't confuse that with passivity. He knows how to channel aggression, and that's the most dangerous weapon of an athlete. Mendes' influence stems from his discipline, his obsession with details, and his no-talk, only action style of leadership. His teammates often cite how he leads by action, first in the gym and last off the analysis table. This work ethic wasn't cultivated recently. Sporting Lisbon's academy staff recalls how Mendes requested game footage of himself at age 15, not to admire but to critique himself. He noted poor body positioning and lapses in tracking runners, then corrected them in training. That trait matured at PSG, where Enrique's positional play demanded high-level football IQ. That also explains how he quickly overcame the early criticism of decision-making in his game. His coaches say that he began watching the footage of Dani Alves, Ashley Cole, and even midfielders like Busquets to understand control under pressure. On the pitch, he's become PSG's de facto organizer on the left flank. He speaks little during games, but his cues, a subtle point, a shift in body posture, coordinate movements between the backline and midfield. The icing on the cake is that he's described as obsessive by club analysts. He tracks his sprint recovery times and even requested a personal session with a sports neurologist to improve decision-making under fatigue. So, you won't see him shout on the field because he works like a warrior in control, one who knows the cost of every action and then instructs the pack with minimalist energy in vocals and leads everything by example. This desire and constant habit of leading by example is becoming a highlight of the future, and he's redeeming the role of a fullback itself. Tactically, Nuno Mendes is no longer just operating within a role anymore. He's reshaping what that role demands of him. We've talked about how PSG does not use fullbacks traditionally under Luis Enrique. They invert, underlap, and rotate with midfielders. Mendes has not only adapted it, but he's also become the model for that system. His heat map shows activity not just along the flank, but inside left half spaces, occasionally operating in zones 14 and 17, the most dangerous areas outside the box. Don't worry if you don't know about these zones. On this channel, we make football easy to understand for everyone. Zone 14 is located centrally in front of the opponent's penalty area, just outside the box. It is often referred to as the golden zone, or the hole, because it's a key area for creating scoring opportunities. Zone 17 is closest to the opponent's goal, and it's the center of their penalty area. It's essentially the most dangerous area for scoring goals. This is where the most goals are scored. So, unlike traditional wide defenders who hug the touchline, Nuno Mendes now performs a hybrid function. He overlaps when needed, but more often, he moves inward to create overloads in midfield. This gives PSG numerical superiority centrally and forces opposing wingers to track him, which disrupts their attacking transitions. It's a detail often missed, but heavily exploited in PSG's Champions League run. He's also started to initiate play from deeper zones. In the Ligue 1 clash against Lens on December 22, 2024, Mendes dropped into the left centre-back position during build-up, which freed Vitinha to move vertically. These subtle tweaks turn defensive sequences into attacking platforms and shows just how much tactical trust Enrique places in him. If you watch our video on the analysis of Vitinha, you'll get to know how he exploits the benefits from these movements. His comparison now goes beyond fellow fullbacks. Analysts see shades of Alphonso Davies' dynamism with the vision of Joshua Kimmich. Liverpool's Robertson offers pace and delivery, and Thuram offers physicality. Nuno Mendes will show you a complete package of all these players in his game, and the position in which he plays, he is evolving it for the better. After the Nations League final, the conversations have begun. Could Nuno Mendes break into the Ballon d'Or nominations, just like Dani Carvajal finished 4th on the podium last year, not far behind the winner, Rodri, Vinicius and Bellingham? However, if we're talking about tactical influence, team success, and individual brilliance as criteria, then what is stopping Nuno Mendes from winning it? Does he get your vote? Let us know in the comments.